Well, the clerk's pointing out that in the summary, the consultant says what is directly on what we should be doing. Well, no, sorry, what we need to do. What we should be doing.
This is wrong.
Yeah, but disagree. If it's not right, it's not quite working. So the ongoing action is we will be addressing everything in the summary. Right. And then I think, how do we address when the consultant says, I think this needs fixing, and our staff say we don't agree?
Surely the cycle, the process we use at the moment is this plumber comes along and does his report, he gives that to us, and then we assess what we need to do. Surely we need a step in the process. Next time he comes to do it, where we go through this and say, we couldn't find the signs that are there now.
Yeah.
We don't think this is right. You agree with that? So just close the loop from the report.
Okay. Everyone okay with that as an action?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Can I just make a comment, please, Chairman? The last item, periodic, spinning turnply, hanging handles removed for maintenance. Is this what's been going, the handles that's been ongoing for months and months, that didn't have two grippers?
Yeah.
Can I ask you to, or somebody to ask, why is it month after month after month this comes up and it hasn't been dealt with?
Because there's no answer. We've had two lots of handles on there and they've both gone the same way. So the consultant was actually, he's got the same problem as another play area, and he was trying to find something else to replace it that would be long lasting, because they're quite expensive to replace.
And this is a safety thing, isn't it?
Yeah, because when there's no rubber grip, they obviously people fall off.
So can people use it at the moment?
Well, no, because the handles have been removed.
They've been removed completely.
So is it labelled that you can't use it?
Well, you can't use
Is
it.
that the handles can't use it? All right.
Just one quick question. When does winter start?
Oh, bless.
Before the winter, so that's actually needed.
Oh, right.
It's officially autumn until the end of December.
Have you got any?
All I was told by CBC that they were going out to tender and they would have it done before winter. And that was about 2 months ago.
Get an update from the weather.
Start all in.
Yeah. Winter in which year?
Okay, any further comments on there? So just to make sure we all understand, we've agreed to strengthen the process, that any discrepancies or any debate or dispute between us and the consultant is resolved at the next appointment. Yep, staff say no, that's okay, then they take it up with the consultant and the resolution comes in the following report. Everyone okay with that? Yes, Chris?
Just one point on this front page. Could I ask the clerk just to put a note to say that who wrote it or document reference? So when I originally read the report, I thought it was an appendix from CPM, but it's obviously not. It's just adding that, so we help them clarify who wrote this page.
Okay, good. Okay, let's move on. Finance report. From the report from the financial working party. Steve, who's going to deliver this?
Well, I'll take it. I'll take the paper as read. I think the first point to identify really within the summary is that effective budget management starts from having an accurate budget in the first place. Part of our remit was to kind of obtain views of councils around the table in terms of what they wanted, which we take through on the first page. We didn't get a huge amount of feedback, so still happy to have some more ongoing feedback. Essentially, the budget system will enable us to profile the budgets. It will require some input from the town clerk to do that. It requires ongoing management of those variances so you don't identify false variances throughout the year. It does require the input, but if the councillors want a variance analysis, then it requires that input to begin with. And we confirm that the system can do that. And in terms of our recommendations, I think certainly the first one can go forward as a proposal to you. But I think obviously with the new town clerk in November, it might be worth just hanging on for that appointment to arrive and taking this with her. We don't want to create a whole lot of additional workload before the new budget's really up and running anyway.
Okay, any questions?
Okay, so just recommendation 3, you say report format B and report cost centre A. What does B and A mean?
Top of the page, it's finance system
okay.
reports in 2 ways.
I read this report twice and I couldn't find an A and a B. I'll read it again.
That's right. I mean, there's only 2 ways of reporting, by cost central or by budget code. So each individual area can receive a budget report by item, and then the finance during purpose committee can receive the more summary level reports. But as I say, the key point is we need to have an accurate budget in the first place, and then secondly, we need to make sure those budgets are profiled correctly across the year so you don't throw out false variances. It requires input, but if that's what we need as councillors, then that's what we need to take forward with the new councillor.
Yeah, going back to the meeting we had 2 weeks ago, the finance committee had, I think they were looking for changes to be made before the budget was finalised this year about layouts and things, and that's what we did address.
Well, when was the budget? What about the February, wasn't it?
No, the budget's a big amount at the moment.
Okay, well, I wasn't at that meeting, so I'll have to defer to colleagues who were here.
My question's on the same things that Kathy's talking about. What we found difficult at the last meeting is we have a budget that's a first draft that's been prepared, and it is in a format which is at a cost centre level, and it's basically a lot of columns on what we spent this year and then what the budget will be at cost centre level per account line next year, which is fine at that kind of macro level, if you like, but what we don't have, which I personally require, is a top level budget. Forget splitting petrol costs across 10 cost centres. Just say we need a report that says what's our wages and salary bill, what's our each account line rolled up, which I believe we produced for some other purpose, because then when we start the budgeting process, we can say that our precepts are £176,000 and we've got a budget here that's spending £176,000 and X amount is wages and salaries, X amount is revenue that's coming in. And we, to my mind, we should be starting at that level and saying, well, what do we intend to do about this, not only next year, but strategically over the next 5 years, what's going to be about this? And then once we can agree where we should be at that top level, then we can break it down as working accounts at cost centre level. And I personally would question why we break things out across all those cost centres when all they are is a number of cost centres, 10, and it divides what we spend on buying a lawnmower or whatever. Well, to me, that might be fun for accountants, but it's nonsense in the real world. We want to look at the real world, what we're doing. That's what we wanted to report to say, which I think is what we discussed.
That's the report for the system can generate that report. That's the report that's big. That can do it via budget hitting.
Okay, so it's a detailed income, but it's rolled up.
Yeah.
So we're going to get that, are we?
Yeah. if that's what you want,
finance
then
duty to
the system can do whatever you want. Obviously, you need to put information into it first, and that will require the time commitment of the staff. And it requires equipment going on an ongoing basis to monitor those variances and then report back to council on a variance by variance basis.
Okay.
And we've determined that the system can do that for us. I guess what we're asking for, if you want that to be done, it can be done, but we need to recognise the initial effort up front to get the budgets input in that way. Kathy's still looking puzzled.
Well, that's what we
No,
said.
no,
That was
no,
what we
no.
said we wanted.
No, all I was doing was pointing out that that's what they were discussing, that, you know, that they wanted.
It can do it, it can definitely do that, but it needs to be set up to do that.
So how and when do we describe what we want, bearing in mind we need it for 2 weeks' time?
Well, what you've described is what I've written here.
Is it?
It can
Yeah.
do
Different
those two
words.
types of report formats. But in order to do the variance analysis, you need to profile that budget across the year. That's what will take time. Those reports, A and B, can be produced at a push of a button on the current budget. That's not a problem. You talked to other councillors when they responded to us, talked about variance analysis. At the moment, you don't have a variance analysis. You've got a year-to-date
Yeah,
spending
that's the month by month one.
and percentage against it.
Yeah.
If you want to know whether you're spending on in line with your budget, you've got to put that into the finance system to begin with. That will probably take a bit longer. The report you're both talking about can be done tomorrow morning.
Good.
In my mind, and I'm not the only one, other people keep them quiet, but that's what we want.
Yeah.
Those two things.
Yeah. Would it be possible to have a draft version of this and make iterations to it, or is it a once and for all thing? I mean, I'm thinking if you were to give us a draft that could be reviewed in the GP Finance when the next round of the budget discussions take place, that would then give a flavour.
I'll check with Leslie because Leslie pushes the button, not me. But yeah, you can take bring an example. I don't know how much the system will enable you to manipulate the data that comes out of it. But you can certainly do, as I've said, A and B report formats. Whether there's much play within that, you'd have to have another look.
On your income and expenditure every month, you get the percentage variance.
Yeah, that's an annual. That's the annual budget. Councils have asked for a month-by-month variance analysis. In order to do that, you've got to, as I keep saying, you have to profile your budget across the 12 months to do that, not just say, this is my budget for the year, have I spent 3 months out of 6 or 3 months out of 12?
Seasonal spending, whether it's
So
linear.
if you took something like professional fees, which come in 1 month, so you would say, oh, you're ahead of it, and then all of a sudden you're behind.
That's right, yeah.
Okay. Right. But I think it's clear we want that, and we don't need to accept there'll be a time or length for it to look right.
Yes.
Well, as long as it doesn't hold up,
So I can't.
as part of the budget, because there's a timescale involved in
So
that.
what do they want
So
for the next,
if we-
next round of budgets?
Yeah.
I'm just going to go with that. The variance is going to get, is not, it can't get in the way
No.
of the
Well,
budget. So we've got to do this job of work.
If you think about it, the budget won't be input into the system until they've been agreed, and they
Yes.
don't need to be input into the system until, as long as they're done before the start of the next financial year, then that's fine, because that's when the variance reporting will start.
Right.
So we have 3 months or whatever it is to do that.
So they're separate.
Well, no, I think what Chris was saying was that he wants these figures before he can look at setting.
Yeah, but that's not the variance stuff.
No, the variance stuff
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
management accounts going over
It's the
time.
roll-up.
But, yeah, I know. But what I'm saying is, are we on we're on a timescale to get these budgets done in whatever format it comes in.
Yes.
Are we working to that timescale?
Yes.
Are we
Because-
sure?
Yeah, like the stuff that Chris is talking about, the roll-up can be done within the current system without any additional input. It's just a question of pushing a different button on the system to chuck out
Yeah.
information in a slightly different way. What we're talking about is the other stuff
Yeah,
that we've
yeah,
requested
yeah,
will take
yeah.
a bit more time.
As I say, I think we must be aware of the timescales involved in this budget.
It's probably worth reminding ourselves
Of
of the
the-
timing,
yeah.
so GP
Because-
and finance is when they get next rounds considered. Then they go to,
Yeah, 2 weeks.
2 weeks' time, the two committees that have got budgets will
Yeah.
address them.
and then they go to full council in December for consideration, and then they're ratified in January.
Beginning of January.
So that's what I'm just saying, be aware of the timescale.
It won't have any impact on that at all. The reports can be done, it's just,
Yeah, I know,
It's just what you
it's
suck out.
getting those reports done in time for those
Yeah.
committee meetings.
yeah,
Because Chris and them, I think they want those reports in 2 weeks' time.
all right, yes.
Okay.
It can be done, yeah.
Alright. Any other issues or questions or debates or doubts? Worries?
I'm confused, what do you want in the next round of budgets? Do you want it as it was presented last time, or all rounded up?
Round it up, round it up.
One figure for salaries across the whole book,
Yeah.
and projected figure. Projected figure for all,
Get to budget.
for this year's budget.
You're,
Both the roll-up and the...
I think probably both, you probably
Both,
need
it's
both.
the roll-up and cost of the budget.
Just you have to push the button twice, different formats. It's
Well, I
right.
do the budget on Excel, I don't do the budget from the current accounts.
Well, let's not have a discussion now, why don't us talk about how you run that system?
Mhm.
Andy, I think you
No, I just want to check that you're happy and you've got a clear brief, but if people are going to work on it offline with you, then maybe I think we always do.
So we need to have these conversations about urgency so that the clerk is on board, up to speed and, well, on board with what we've got to do. Okay? No? Okay, so that's a slight work in progress. Any other questions or concerns? No? Okay. Item 18, Arlesey remembers you? You, Chris?
Yeah. Okay, I'll just recap about Arlesey members you to make sure everyone's aware of where this proposal comes from. So, Arlesey members you as a community project started in 2013, Rain Child of a then serving councillor, Duncan Moffat. Duncan Wang. And the project started just to be putting crosses on the graves of the 87 people in the War Memorial, but as some people, most people probably aware, it expanded into a number of different areas, got a lot of community involvement, got a lot of recognition both locally, nationally and indeed internationally. It really put Arlesey on the map for some positive reasons. One of the things that I'll say we as Arlesey membership took up during 2014 was an initiative in spring 2014 where the Woodland Trust wanted to encourage and give some financial assistance to communities to create memorial copses within their community. So it did two things. It gave the community a lasting memory that would develop with age of the centenary of the 1914-18 war. And it obviously, if enough communities took it up, it gave the country a lot of woodland copses which are in decline in most of the country. So we applied for support from woodland copse and had 30 trees donated, which we took receipt of in late summer 2014. Since then, or even before then, we've had problems finding a piece of suitable land accessible by the community in the long term in order to create this woodland copse. We've gone through a number of options that have failed one way and another. So a month ago we came to council and sought authority to explore the opportunity of creating copse in the area of land that's known as phase 2 of Arlesey Cemetery. So it's the area that won't be used as a cemetery until probably 25 or 30 years' time. It's a massive area of land, about twice, maybe 2.5 times the size of the existing cemetery. So we got an arborist to visit there, a landscaper to visit there, and draw up some proposals, which is what the council gave us permission for. And I guess you've all had a chance to look at this. The gentleman who's kindly supporting us, has supported us over the last year, does get carried away with his designs. Came up with the memorial copse, which is here, which is in the north-eastern corner of a large area that's known as phase 2, and it really fits in that bit of land, if you're familiar with it, that kind of juts out, it comes in at an angle as it goes up the hill. He got carried away in a couple of areas. First of all, he did his design, which didn't include any of the 30 trees we've been donated. And was a formal memorial garden, which would have cost a lot of money to do. And he said if he had his way, that's what he would do. Well, that's not what we've set out to do. It's not what the community has contributed a lot of money towards. It's for a memorial copse using the 30 trees that we donated. He also, on the plan, drew in a road here because he's particularly dismayed that when the cemetery was first put together, that the angle that the gate was put into phase 2, because he said any landscape with the right mind would have put it at an angle which is parallel with this edge. And that's why he drew a road in, because he's sort of saying that probably when at least the elder ones of us here are no longer councillors and probably getting our plots up there, a road will have to come at that angle. If it goes straight up, it will disappear off. So the road is not part of this plan, it's not part of the proposal. There's no necessity for a road there. And also on the plan, there's like a paved path going from the road that doesn't exist to this central area where there will be a large plinth, like a sandstone plinth. The Arlesey membership team took receipt of this, and unfortunately they're away on holiday, the draftsmen put this together, so we couldn't get it changed until they're back. But we're not proposing to have that path there. That's a cost. We feel it's unnecessary. We've revised this to say there'll be 4 benches as opposed to 3. And I identified for people to see, to answer the question on what the ongoing maintenance of this might be. It's just the central area here where the 4 seats are around the monolith, where people can go and sit, that in the summer will have to be mown, and a path leading down to the entrance will have to be mown. The rest of this will remain meadow grass as it is at the moment and will be for the foreseeable future. There will be some work to be done. This is very uneven, this land, so the land will have to be levelled, and we've already identified a member of the community who's got the equipment and the wherewithal to do that. So we've looked at what we've got in the Arlesey Members U bank account at the moment, and we believe that with the same kind of approach we've had to various people within the community and various bodies moving forward, that we will be able to fund this without coming to council, as I said before, for any more funding whatsoever above what the council gave when this first started. So what the proposal is looking for now is for Arlesey membership to be given permission to go ahead and create this memorial copse. As I said a month ago, there's a certain element of urgency because we would like to get the trees transported from where they're resting, which is not an ideal place at the moment, to actually be planted before probably the end of this calendar year, before real winter sets in, because it's not ideal to move saplings in January or February. So we've got the proposal, we've seen the plan. I can answer any questions you might have. A member of the public did mention something about planting and growing things here. We had the arborist look at it. the alpine trees at the back are exactly the same trees and in line with the trees that are already planted, forming the border to the existing cemetery. And as you go in on the right-hand side of the path, there are some graves there that I think it's the unconsecrated land, that behind them there are a number of trees. I think when it was first put together that it was overplanted and taken out. The way this has been scouted, it won't be overplanted. There's 5 metres between each tree. As I understand it, that this area currently suffers the same drainage issues as the original cemetery did, and it cost a lot of money to put that right. Having the memorial copse here with these trees will start extracting some of the water from that land, so hopefully for future generations we make it an easy task when the rest of this area does in fact become cemetery.
Chris, can you say a bit about who you've consulted in terms of these proposals? Who's Arlesey remembers you've consulted in terms of consulting people in the village?
Consulting for this plan or consulting?
Yeah, just sort of generally getting ideas of how it should be done.
Well, we've had Roger Griffin, who's an arborist, and his son have been heavily involved in the 3 plans that we've put together to date. So they've got the ability to design the product. They know and have talked at length to us about the different trees, what kind of soil they need. So they've done all the checks that these trees are suitable for this land. They've proposed the 2 additional trees and the outline trees that go there. So they have been our prime consultants, if you like. In terms of consulting with the community, this has been pitched to the community during the whole of Arlesey Membership project. So the proceeds from DVD sales of the Arlesey Membership film were put together to go towards this after we paid for John Bosco's headstone. We have got, and we've had them on hold, a lot of interest within the community for this to be a community effort. So the school will get involved in the planting day and so on. There are a number of people who've got the relevant skills that are needed, laying paving stuff and so on, who have volunteered. There was some dismay when we were planning to go to the Blue Lagoon because a lot of people in the village wouldn't have been able to be involved, like the school could have gone up there, for example. And there was concern that elderly and infirm people wouldn't have been able to make the trek up to the Blue Lagoon to sit in the Memorial Park, whereas cemetery on the edge of the village was a lot easier. That's kind of consultation.
You said about mowing the grass. What about the trees? Will they need any attention and care?
I'm sure they will need, they will probably need advice on that. Certainly Roger has offered before to get involved with supervising the planting, to provide the deer protecting things around them. I think once we get through the first couple of years, they're pretty much self-sufficient. But until then, I would expect the project team to take responsibility for that. The only help we require from the council, and the burden to the council, will be to mow the central area and the path during the summer months.
How close to neighbouring properties would the trees be? Is there a danger of shading or falling?
There's not a danger of shading or falling, I think, ever, but definitely in the next few years. I think it might be, I mean, there's quite a gap here between the newest houses. There's more of a gap here than there is with the existing cemetery, perhaps onto Council Ward's property. I think it would be prudent for us, and I say us and members who are here, to at least advise the people in the houses that are joining that this is going ahead and what it's about. I think normally it's termed as consultation nowadays, but it's, yeah. There's no planning permission that's required, and there's definitely not, they're not close enough to cause life problems.
Any other questions? Okay, so the proposal. Would anyone minded to second that proposal? Okay. Any amendments? So we go straight to the vote then. Okay, those for the proposal? I don't know if you're voting for or not, Coach.
Can I just make an amendment? Just in terms of some kind of consultation on the plan to people, maybe put the plan on the website, give people an opportunity to say something about that plan, maybe near neighbours or somebody may disagree with it, but if we go ahead and approve it and there's an outcome in the village where you've got ahead with this, confirm it better this way or that way, people have got an opportunity to say maybe for a 2-week window or something, subject to that consultation and then approve it. I don't know if you're under any timescale or pressures at all, Chris, whether that can...
We're under traffic timescale pressures because you remember that because I didn't have to propose in writing, it's got delayed in September by a month. We've identified someone from the committee to project manage this and we're hoping to get on the go ahead to get moving tomorrow.
Do you wish your amendment to be considered?
Yeah, I don't know what other people's view on that is in terms of getting views of the village on these proposals.
Simon?
I do apologise, I didn't realise, because,
Oh, right, you've got an interest.
yeah,
Right. Okay.
that's why I kept quiet.
So is anyone minded to second the amendment?
Can you say in detail what the amendment is? Subject to a 2-week consultation.
Yeah, a consultation period to go ahead with that plan. Rather than just go ahead with it, I'm saying let's do some consultation and then go ahead with it.
So is anyone minded to that needs seconding or not?
Yeah, I think we need to. I agree with
It's
you.
okay, you just need to second it. Okay, so now we vote on the amendment. Those for that amendment?
To be included in the major.
So there is a proposal that we give permission to Blunt Cops. There is an amendment to that proposal saying that we have a 2-week consultation.
And then there'll be a final vote on the whole thing together.
Well, I suppose,
Because you can't just say, I'll vote for the amendment, therefore I agree with the whole project.
yes, okay, so consequences, so the amendment will mean we have to bring it back to council in 4 weeks' time.
No. Amendments to proposals become amendments, and you can vote on the amendment proposal.
Well, if we're happy with that, we must be also happy that we delegate responsibility or authority to Chris, let's say, to collate the comments and reflect them in the design. I don't think we will. If we go for consultation, that suggests change, and I think that change would need to come back to council for approval.
If we get...
Yes. So a consequence, I think it's... Am I not making myself
Yeah, I
clear?
accept what you say. I'm conscious of the delay that will cause.
Yes.
So I wonder whether there is a halfway house where the project can go ahead for this month, then can be put on hold once the feedback is collated.
Seems clear as mud to me. I'm not sure how, I think we're trying to do, there are too many unknowns now,
I
aren't
mean, I would say that if there's no objections from the immediate neighbours, then we can go ahead. I mean, that's the only reason it could come up to council is if there was objections from the immediate neighbours. That's the only, because I think that's the pragmatic way to.
Even the dogs are
It's not a very popular motion, is it?
I think that's being quite pragmatic given the time pressures that we've got. I think let's immediate neighbours, so that's up on Hitchin Road, Rumrick Gardens around there, and then if there are no objections from the immediate neighbours.
Okay, we need to bring some order to this. There is an amendment being tabled that's been seconded, so we need to vote on it. So the amendment, if I may proceed it, is that we go for a 2-week consultation period, take input on the design, And then I can't see how it cannot, if there is any input and any change proposed, need to come back to council.
Can I just, I don't think you can say design. In 2
What's
weeks,
the
I can't
consultation?
get this plan amended. Because the draftsman's in Merck. Still in Merck?
No,
Back.
today.
Oh,
We need to vote on the amendment, so let's keep it simple. There is an amendment saying we go to public consultation for 2 weeks, and I think inevitably that means this will come back to council if there's any delta to what's being proposed.
Sorry, I'm a bit lost. How are we going to do this 2 week public consultation?
Well, that's the amendment, I'm just quoting the amendment. Well, so your options, councillors, is to vote for or against that amendment. Is that fair? That's how it goes.
if it's going to come back to council month, this won't happen this year, so we can forget.
Well, so let's deal with this amendment. Those for the amendment. Okay. Those against the amendment. And have we captured that? Hands high, please. Have the clerk. Okay, and those abstaining? Excellent. I don't think that was conclusive, was it?
More votes against the amendment is carried, so you can revert to the original.
Oh, my counting was wrong.
6 against.
Oh, right, okay, so the amendment is not carried. So that means, in the absence of any other amendments,
Well, can I propose an amendment that we do, no, as I said, which was consult with immediate neighbours. And if there is no objections from the immediate neighbours.
okay.
then-
So there's an amendment here that the proposal is carried, subject to neighbours, in a sense.
I mean, that's the standard procedure for planning, anyway.
Okay.
And who's going to consult with them?
Arlesey members, I think, should own that problem.
And they're happy to do it.
Yes, we will be able to do that. Yes, we will do it.
Okay, so in the absence of any more questions, would someone like to second that amendment? Thank you. So those for the proposed and amended proposal? Fine. Those against? Very good. And any abstaining? Since you've got an interest, I don't think you can vote, can you?
That's what she's abstaining.
That's why I'm abstaining.
Of course. Next question. Sorry. What was the result?
6-4.
6-4, okay.
6-4, 2 against.
6-4.
abstain.
FOR.
Yes.
Right.
I just don't understand, this proposal is approved, subject to neighbours.
Yes.
We need to vote on the actual proposal.
No, that isn't.
We've voted on the amendment to the proposal. Is everyone okay? I mean, we've voted now, so it's a bit late if we're not. We all know what we've just done. Okay. Item 19 is resource centre report. I take it as read. Any questions, any comments, any queries?
Could I just add something to the report?
Yeah.
Regarding the meeting, we had a meeting on the 16th of September of the strategy group, and Nicola Avery from the county library services came to see us. And one of the main things that we discussed was there's not a service level agreement between us and the library service, and is very old and out of date. So what she's going to do is she's going to go away and prepare a draft new one for us, so that we can then make any amendments as we wish to it. Also, the assets, the building is now been transferred to the assets department at CBC. So that will have to be dealt with separately in the future. Before it was all under one umbrella from what I can gather, but now it's been separated. She also said that she was going to make sure that the resource centre got lots of more support because there are areas where Erin wasn't getting the support she should be from them. So all in all, it's looking more positive.
Good.
So I got that.
You still can't call it a library though.
I know I can't help it. I can't help it. I do. It'll always be ours in library to me.
All right. Okay, any more questions, any debate, anything to
Is this on
discuss?
the report?
Pardon?
Is this on the report?
No, this was extra.
No, this is, yeah, on the, yes, Chris, this is, he's asking a question whether there's any questions on the report.
Oh, yes, sorry, mate, yes.
That's the
Yeah,
second part.
I know I'm not being critical, but when we met back before the summer, I requested for council to have a report like this, but the report is informative, but it's subjective. There's no data to back this up. What I asked for the time, and I would still like council to see, are the kind of data that will enable us, as we move forward, to have a strategy for the resource centre, to potentially get additional funding for it, and to have some clout, which we haven't got at the moment with the CBC. We need to produce the same kind of monthly data that other libraries within CBC, be they community funded or CBC funded, produce. So we need to know footfall, which I believe was recorded. I know it's manual. I believe we should record it electronically rather than a beam entry like the libraries do. We definitely need to record loans, and we need to record fines and the number of members. Because if council has that data and has the trend, then we can sort of have a strategy to work at making that resource centre the kind of asset to the community that it really should be, because it should be used by more people. It should be a much bigger feature of the community. So we do need proper management data. The commentary is good, but we need the raw data.
Well, we'll take that on board and try and make sure that next time there's some more data. With regard to football, we did discuss this with the lady from CBC about electronic, but it would the cost would be totally different. Unless you can come up with some money, we have to find the money ourselves. And I think it would be really prohibitive, the amount of use we get.
Have we done any analysis on that? Because it's simple and cheap technology.
Well, that's not good. Cost would be extremely high.
But the actual system, the CBC system, and I don't know if we've been updated yet, will give the loans, for example. We don't know how many books are being loaned, we don't know how many fines we're...
No, I think we'll try and make sure we can get that information to you.
Really, I'd like it on a monthly basis.
Yeah,
so
that's what we'll do. Well,
Okay, good.
I don't know whether it be monthly, it might be to start with, it might have to be quarterly or something, we'll see how we can work in.
Yeah, it could be on the
Yeah,
it's great.
we've got to look at the practicalities of it.
Okay, good. Any other comments? Nothing? No? Moving on? We have a policy and procedure being proposed for grants. Grants.
No.
Sorry, part B, yeah, sorry. Apologies, part B, yes, you have in front of you an expense form.
So it's for the two members of staff down there at all times, there's an initial budget set aside of £1,200. So we're nearing the using of it all up. It's whether members want to carry on with that or not.
Simple question.
What's the extra amount?
Pardon?
What's the extra amount we're looking to add to the budget in order to keep the same levels of staffing?
Well,
250 a month.
Yeah.
Well, we've passed the peak now, it's not linear, is it? Most of this additional cost was
Oh, it's holidays.
Aaron was off for 3 weeks, that caused the large amount of it.
And Karen was off as well.
Karen was off. We need a picture of what it costs on an annual basis, which will smooth out holiday periods, to have what I certainly believe we're bound to have, and that is a minimum of 2 people on duty at all times of the business centre open. It's not going to cost what it costs through July, August and September, because that's the peak holiday period of the year.
So can you take, I think, sorry.
So I guess the question is, what are the implications of not, it's less the cost, what's, if we don't vote for this and there's only one member of staff or whatever the numbers are, what are the implications on opening hours as we'd like to see it start?
I think we need a report.
Well, how much is left in the budget for the resource centre? No, the overall staffing budget for the resource centre. If it falls within that. I mean, I think 250 is probably a conservative, safe estimate. We passed the peak holiday period, but we've got Christmas and Easter before the end of the financial year. Half term. If you assume slightly less than the average of this per month.
Well, a quick look at these dates, 40, 110, about £200 of that, only 200 was outside of August and September.
There's no expenditure in April, May and June, we didn't incur any costs.
We haven't voted.
We haven't started.
We haven't started.
I suppose it's a bit early.
So what's left in the...
I think it's 54% been spent so far, after 6 months.
So we voted on this previously because of a specific concern around staffing levels. I kind of think we're asking the wrong question. We're asking a finance question, where what we really should be asking is, what are the minimum staffing levels? And if we're not prepared to finance it, what is the proposal?
Minimum staffing is 2 at all times, because as a council we're taking on a lot of risk, and we're derelict in our duties and employees
So
to have one person on their own at any time.
Absolutely. So the proposal to not keep this expenditure needs to come with a counter statement that says that this is
The consequences.
the consequences of it, which is a piece of information we don't have at the
That's
moment.
right. I need to report data.
Are you able to produce that report, that information for us for the next meeting? We have budget.
What information do you want? Because lots of things have been mentioned.
Okay, so for part B, the question, picking up on your point, is do we carry on funding against this profile? What we need to understand is how much would it cost to keep 2 people for the hours that we have at the moment? Tell me if I get this right. Yes?
So we're talking about staff. I mean, we're ignoring the fact that sometimes I think there are volunteers
There'd be what, sorry?
volunteers in there.
Yeah, absolutely, it's a cost. So,
Are we saying there has to be 2 members of staff in there?
I see.
Or are we saying there has to be at least 2 people in there?
Surely 2 people.
Yeah, it was 2 people.
Hmm?
People was agreed as long as there were 2 people,
2
even though
people.
some may be voluntary.
Okay.
Okay.
So how much more do we need to keep the hours we have now?
And I propose that we continue it, increase that budget to an extra £250 to cover us to the end of the year, and we review it in January when we've got full
When we've
complement.
got the information.
Yeah, we can then budget it, can't we?
So we add another 250 to this 221 that's left. We review it in January when we've got full complement of office staff and perhaps more time together. Think through the implications.
Sounds reasonable. So that's the next thing. We're happy to take that out of reserves.
Well, take it out of the staff budget and our salary budget.
No, because staff budget's going to be spent anyway.
We're at 54% 6 months in, so
Well, there's some.
Well, the income's up.
the income's at 89, so far. So that's what's in the payment.
On your 4,001, you're at 33.5.
A lot of that's preset, but it's going to be,
The £250 talking about, so
Well, we just need to
so
know
that
where
you
again.
make an informed decision.
We still need to know, I agree, I think the idea is good, but we do need to do where that's going to come from. So if we're going to take it out of the staffing costs, fine. So we still understand the risks of that.
The 4,001, which is the general administration salary and wages budget, is at 33%.
Alright, so there is capacity in there. Yeah, okay with that. Who was first? Sorry. Ladies first.
If you're going to take it out of the wages salary budget as a whole, has one member of staff not returned to full-time yet, so all the time that was part-time, we weren't paying, so we must have
Yeah, that's why.
not spent what we precepted
That's
for.
what I the point just made was that on the administration budget, we're only at 33% halfway through the year, so there is.
Sorry, administration, I wasn't thinking that.
4,001, it's on a different part of the.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking of administration, I was thinking of another area of the salary and
Well,
wages.
there is budget in there in salaries and wages
Yeah.
as a whole. But
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
environmental, it's at 38% as well, so.
Has your question been answered?
Yes.
Great, okay.
So, I think you were halfway through describing the report to Kathy, and the second part of that report clearly needs to say, if we reduce this budget, what the proposed revised opening hours will be in light of a reduced budget.
So there was two parts to what Councillor Lee said. One is to come to council with the cost, how much it would cost to keep it open the current hours. And the opposite to that is if we don't put any more budget in and we just go with the 50, whatever the 46% that's left is, what we would need to reduce the opening hours to still have 2 persons in that room. Does that make sense?
Mr. Chairman, I've got 2 points. First of all, I don't believe there's any way that we should be considering reducing the hours of the residence centres open. To me, that's not an option.
Well, we'll debate that when we get the information come back.
I'm nervous about even considering it. Why would we consider?
I think we have to.
I don't.
Well, then you'll vote against it at the time.
Okay, it seems a very defeatist attitude to addressing this problem.
Might I say that maybe another brief I could have is to look at what other ways to facilitate it rather than reducing it now, to look at whether there are ways to cover the costs.
Okay, no, so
There's other money
Yeah.
within our total budget, which
Well,
has
not as
nothing
much
to do
in
with
the
the
total
resource
budget, I
centre.
think.
right, that's fine. I think we need to know the choices, don't we, the consequences.
Yeah, my second point is, I think it was said then that this includes volunteers. It didn't include volunteers when we put this £1,200 there, and you cannot, you cannot be derelict in our responsibility as the employer by putting volunteer. Volunteer can walk out whenever they want. A volunteer is not got the skills training to do the job. A volunteer is not trained to deal with the kind of issues that arise in public places. So I'm totally opposed to volunteers. This council should have 2 employees there at all times.
I think basically it's up to the resource strategy
Yes.
committee to look at it, and they bring a proposal to, I need whoever needs to look at what the staffing levels are, what the hours people work. This is an enormous task of giving them.
Is it just you?
No,
Yes,
it's me
I was
as well.
Helen.
Yeah, I'll come and join you, Kathy.
Thank you.
That's okay.
I was,
You need help.
I was I was on that group, but because the last meeting was during the day, I couldn't get time off work. Everybody forgets about me. Thank you.
If the committee needs help, then come and ask for it, or, you know,
I will.
you must. I'm sure someone else will step in really fast.
Is it possible to have the meetings other than during the day though?
Okay, so let me see if I can capture where we're at. There is a part B is a proposal to decide whether or not we're going to carry on funding this, and we're moving that into a committee, which is where I think it should be. But there is a proposal from Councillor Ward that we add £250 to the 221 that's left, so that we can carry on with this level of cover while that committee comes back to us. Have I got that right? Have I captured it? Yeah? Okay. All right. So could someone second that proposal, please? All right. So the proposal is to add £250 to the budget out of the general salaries, because we've got bandwidth in there, while the committee comes back with a report on how to do it. No, £250 in total. That would be 470 to the end of the year. It's only 2 months, isn't it? November, December.
Oh, to the end of the, not the end of the financial year. The end of the
Well, I assumed it was end of the year.
Yeah.
It gives you 2 months to report.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that's what we do. So you've got a bit of time.
Yeah, I thought you meant to have.
So it's been seconded. Now we need to simply vote on that. Then those four. Fabulous. Okay. Good. Well done. A and B. Okay, so now the grants policy and procedure. Who's the author of this? Is that you?
I put it to Chief in Finance, and there was a change requested, which I think has been incorporated now into the...
So does someone want to present this to council, or will we take it as read and debate it?
What we'll take it as
We'll take it as
read,
read.
but happy to answer questions as well.
You said it's an amendment to this.
Yeah, it was on,
It was about the tender process.
Requesting excess of £1,000, not going out to tender, but should show value for money. Three quotations has been it's on the last page on the summary.
Did you say handle? Okay.
I was just going to propose that we adopt this.
Well, let's just. Has anyone got any questions?
Yeah, I don't understand about the quotation. It's a grant.
So, if a body is applying for a grant in excess of £1,000, we'd like them to apply the same rigour as the council would in its own expenditure, and demonstrate that they've got quotes for whatever it is they're spending the £1,000 on.
Is that the word? What people are doing for money for?
I think...
It's not always just to go and buy something.
No, but it's a service, then again you'd expect, I guess we're just translating the rules and rigour that we apply to ourselves.
Well, this use an example. I know they haven't asked for that sort of money, but the Good Neighbour scheme,
Yeah.
if they wanted money to help them continue running, how could they, if they wanted over £1,000, how would they be able to provide quotes?
The wording here, they've asked for it to be changed. Previously it said tendered, which means it has to go to a formal exercise and be advertised. Sort of lessen the wording here, so it says must demonstrate, must show value for money has been considered. So where it's not possible, you can say there's only one organisation that provides this service, or you cannot demonstrate, there's no other way of actually getting those free quotes. You've considered the value for money, and it wasn't possible to get free quotes, so it's being considered. So that kind of application would still go through, wouldn't deter that application from being put through.
So what does this paragraph, what does it actually say now?
So
This is what it says?
Yeah, it's an example, so it doesn't have to be 3 points. It could be, we
we expect we'll spend this amount of money and we'll benefit 500 residents by doing this, this and this. And we think, well, that's pretty good value for money actually, £2 a resident. But in the case of a service or a piece of equipment, we'd like to see that they've gone out and got a report.
Okay.
But it's the value for money element,
Yeah.
you know, we don't want to be just doing more money.
I think putting in that ECP quotation does make it sound a little bit nervous.
So it's just an example, as opposed to
Yeah.
demonstration.
It doesn't give any other examples of
Um,
anything else.
so generally I think it's a sound idea. We discussed it quite a lot last meeting, and I've got some concerns that it doesn't give us enough flexibility around giving the grants out. For example, if we'd have been adhering to this policy last time, we wouldn't have given the Scouts money for their fireworks. And I don't have a solution to that. I think we've probably spent more time in the last month discussing policy around grants than we spent in the last year discussing the few requests for grants we've had come in. Just some observations.
Chris, you had your hand up?
Yes, there's a question regarding the application procedure. The last paragraph says all grants awarded will be subject to regular report back. They're grants. Who does the reporting back?
Ideally, you're a recipient. I suppose it's depending on how big the grant is. If you give in £50 to somebody to go and do something small scale, then I don't think we'd expect them to turn up regularly. But if you granted £10,000 to the Remembers You project, for example, you would expect some kind of feedback on a regular basis. We did used to do that for the community agent or the village agent.
Well, the village agent,
We, that was a grant essentially, and we used to get a report back on that. So again, it's accountability really and it would be proportional to the amount that you gave in the grant, I think.
When Arlesey Remembers You got a grant of £2,000, they reported back every month for a whole year on that, and provided accounts, receipts and so on, what was spent money.
My worry is how it's going to be enforced and what the consequences of non-reporting are going to be.
I would say it's a term of giving someone the grant, and if they didn't live up to the terms, they probably wouldn't get a grant in the future.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I'll just
That's the stick.
One question.
Why are you saying that if you're more than £20, it has to be budgeted for the previous year?
Well, I mean, I think it goes back to one of the...
Is that a normal procedure for these?
Yeah, I mean, the limit, 250, 500, you've got to set a limit at something, because, I mean, go back to one of the original points about ensuring you've got a good budget. It all goes down to the data that you feed into that. And if you're not going to have advance warning of what your grants are likely to be, that's significant value, then you've not got the budget and you run out of funds to support that.
Then again, we wouldn't have been given money to scale.
No, because we do have we currently have a budget allocated towards grants. I think it's £2,000.
Yeah, I mean, in the future,
Well, they would know. We would advertise that the limit is 250, and if they came in with 350, we said, well, sorry.
it's very prescriptive.
I think it has to be.
Yeah, the spending money should be.
The problem is with grants is it's not something you can predict. You can set budgets for hedge cutting and grass keeping and those things because you know what your estate is, you know what your liability is. It's relatively predictable given the factors such as weather and football. But
Okay, Helen, you had your hand up.
Thank you. I think with this policy, I think you might put quite a few people off actually applying for a grant. I certainly, as the run the guides, I would be put off by asking for a grant with this policy.
What do you find the barrier?
Well, you want the feedback. It's only 250. the people who are coming forward might want more than that. You know, it's just bits and pieces like that.
Okay. Any other comments, Chris?
I think, I mean, we discussed this before, the difficulty of setting a policy is difficult because there's always areas where you move it here and move it there. But at the moment, status quo for a long while is that month by month we may have X amount of grants come in. Often we know very little about the organisation that's supplying them and whether it impacts on our community. We make generally a subjective decision at council, which is to look what they ask for and knock it down by 50% or 70% and give them that. We could have tendering one month and none next, but we've got no control of this. This way it says for small grants up to £250, that process can remain and there can be an amount, I think someone said £2,000 budgeted for that. If someone wants something substantial, that's above 250 onwards, then hopefully once this is publicised it will give them the opportunity to think about that, to get it in our budget, and then it makes it a much simpler process going forward. And we do know not only how much we like to be spending, but also we'll have a much better informed on what we're spending it on.
Any other comments? No more comments? Okay. So, we read the agenda item again. So the proposal is to approve this document as it stands. So, unless someone wants to amend that, we need to vote on that proposal. Okay? So is anyone minded to second that proposal? No. So now, in the absence of any amendments,
Good to see your hand up.
right. So in the absence of any amendments, we just go to the vote. Those for accepting this policy? What are the numbers? Okay. Those against? And abstaining? Okay, let's carry it then. So we do the policy. Thank you. Item 21, council waste.
Sorry?
Did you ask for this agenda?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so closing from councillor Saar.
Right, very brief history. Some of you will be aware, a couple of years ago, council waste was put in the cemetery area. Residents complained, along with myself as a resident, and it got cleared up and moved. I had a phone call recently, well, several phone calls from residents who walk along the footpath by the Stopfold Road allotments. I went up there after the complaints. There's a pile of rubble in one area, a few feet away there's a concrete lamppost with Arlesey Town Council ownership on it. Right near the signs telling the allotment holders not to dump their rubbish. I walked along the footpath then to an area that is right next to the 507, right next to a hedge and wooden fences. And if that ever got caught alight, it would possibly spread to the allotments and the allotment sheds, because it is right next to the footpath. I was told the maintenance lads had got permission from the last council to have a compost heap. A compost heap is grass, etc. This is all prunings, big branches that are right up against the wooden fence. That worries me because it is a health and safety issue. It's on the footpath, it's right next to the 507, anybody could have thrown a cigarette down or lit it on purpose and it would have all gone up. So after I followed up the residents' complaints, the rubble and the lampposts then appeared, top of Pillory Rise, allotments right on the entrance. And some of the rubble has been started to make a path, but I noticed last night when I went up there to check, the lamppost has disappeared. So I take it that I'd like to know where it has disappeared to, because I don't want a resident now phoning me up saying,
I think we, well,
well, where is it?
Yeah, the guy hasn't got it.
But where is it now?
In their van, on the back of their van.
Oh, that's where I thought it would be. So there's nowhere for it to go. The last council I know, it was discussed when these problems come up of having a skip permanently. Everywhere else does it, every council, builders have them.
They don't want to dispose of it though. They want to use it for hardcore, for backfilling potholes and
No, sorry,
well, that's
a lot of the material they couldn't use. You know, it cost more to break it down than it would to go and get a dumpy bag of. And where it's been put, it's just going to encourage people to add to it. If you're going to stock something for use further, stock it in a proper allocated place,
yeah, absolutely. So we
not
need to,
just dump it.
but we need to provide that, don't we?
Exactly. But I still feel, going by the rubbish that is dumped, you can't put great big planks of wood through a brushwood chipper for the green waste. We need a skip. And I would, the first part of my proposal would be to have a skip permanently for Arlesey Town Council rubbish.
Where are you thinking of having it?
Second phase cemetery or one of the allotments, anywhere that is not accessible for people to fill it up.
What do we do with waste through waste? Somehow, when we deal with it, we kind of something
They are composting, obviously leaves the
so
grass,
it's just compost.
but it is the branches that are the problem.
But what about something like a strip light? If you had to change a bulb, where would you put that?
The people that we get our bulbs from dispose of the lights.
Chairs, I've seen, we saw chairs up at the cemetery that time. Anything that has to be chucked away from this council and can't be put in a, have we got a wheelie bin?
They've got a bin down at the cemetery.
And what can go in
Big
that?
bin.
Can't put strip lights.
Exactly.
Yeah, but
We need something.
They're collected, the lights are collected by the people who
Yeah,
supply
I was
the
using
lights.
that as an example, but we must, Arlesey Town Council must accumulate rubbish. We can't be off it.
Well, where is it then? I mean, all this rubbish that's piling up.
We're an incredibly green council, we recycle everything.
I'm sorry, we haven't.
Let Sandra finish up,
The second part of
then
it
we'll come round and do
was
Cathy.
when I queried the branches, etc., I was told that possibly be hiring in a brushwood chipper. I know our men have to have a certificate, but I did check when I went back to my office, no, but they do. If you go and hire a machine, and it was the same size as the industrial ones, you do really need a awareness training day. Now, yeah, it's fine, go and hire one, have our maintenance lads use it. Heaven forbid if there's an accident, because the first thing our insurance company will say is, had they had adequate training. So I'm not happy with our maintenance lads using a brushwood chipper. But what I'm saying is we've got to come to some solution that cannot be heaped next to a footpath, next to a bypass, the 507. Imagine the smoke if that went up on the
Okay.
507.
So is that your point, Matt?
Yeah, it's my point. We've got to have some sort of waste control.
Let's discuss.
Well, I've got a couple of points to make. One, I thought in this day and age we're supposed to recycle and not take everything to bits. And I think that, we should find some way of being able to, chip down this stuff
That would be
and
great.
you reuse the rubble. I can't see, if you've got rubble, I can't see why you should go out and buy more rubble.
Well, I know that I put on Facebook. I know that's what the lad. I guess that's what
No, I knew
was
it
going on there.
I knew it was, but I didn't see fit to dignify that post with a response. I think the councillors to put things like that on Facebook, being derogatory to their own staff, is appalling. And I was appalled.
Okay, all right. That's
So I knew perfectly well what that rubble is for. But I wouldn't dignify it. And if people would go and ask questions of the office staff instead of jumping to conclusions, they wouldn't be necessary.
okay. All right. I don't disagree with that either.
Thank you.
Good.
And my second point would be, sorry,
No, go on,
I haven't
sorry.
finished. My second point would be, how much would a skip cost? And how will we stop other people with their rubbish? I think so, thank you.
Just related to the provision of a skip, we do already provide a skip at the cemetery, and that already costs us £100 a time to empty. So it may be possible to combine the skip at the cemetery with any of this rubbish collection. I don't have a specific answer, but I think it's worth bearing in mind that we may not need a separate skip, we may just need a variation on the skip that we use already at the cemetery.
So can I just ask where the skip is at the cemetery? I've never seen a skip there.
It's a big bin. It's like
That's not a skip, yeah, a big bin
big,
then.
big bin.
Right, thank you.
And it costs us £100 a month, so we're paying already, and it will be
Is that
helpful.
through CBC?
It's
Can we,
very difficult.
sorry, this
Sorry.
singular,
Sorry.
if you don't mind.
Mm.
Well, that's my point, is I don't know. I believe it's through BIFA, I believe we have a big bin already, so if we decide to provide extra skip facilities, it's worth looking at combining them with what we already do, paying for £100 a month.
It's definitely an issue. I think that the proposal is just jumping to a solution there, understanding the problem. As I see it, to paraphrase the problem, our staff are fly tipping, basically, from what I've heard, in carrying out their duties. Probably out of necessity, I guess, out of the fact that they don't have policies and procedures for dealing with rubbish and for storing materials that they may use later on, which they need. We certainly can't have, and I agree with everybody that putting this stuff on Facebook is ridiculous, but we can't have stuff being pushed from one allotment site to another allotment site to up against fences by our staff. So before we go investing in a skip, which I agree every man and his dog will put in their rubbish in it, particularly if you put it at the allotments, I mean that's just asking for trouble. I think we should analyse the problem, and we should have in place guidance, support, direction, policies and procedures for our staff in dealing with these issues.
Okay. Have you commented on this yet, Chris?
Yeah, only that I spoke to the staff today, and they did move the lampposts when asked. They did confirm that they were keeping it for backfill rubble, and with specific reference to the pillory rise allotments, they very specifically put it in that location so it would discourage vehicles from So I haven't been there, I don't know, that's their explanation. I think their intentions were well meant, I just think...
Absolutely.
I agree, but it's a lack of guidance, it's a lack of policy.
So,
If
does anyone
Gypsy
else?
Travel had done that, the village would be in uproar.
But it's not Gypsy Traveller's land. It's ATC land, and if our staff think that's a good place to store that
Well,
stuff.
it's not, it's
Okay,
it's
guys,
not.
right,
it may
okay.
not be, it may clean it, but that's
I'm not
not
going to have to use this
applied
one.
to
Let's go through the chair for now on this debate. All right, please. Okay. Has anyone else got anything else to say before we go back to the proposal?
Could I make one more comment, please?
Of course.
I went up there last night to check to see if the lamppost had been removed. And part of the rubble, somebody's been walking up the top end of there anyway to the footpath. Somebody is now laying out the rubble for a little path. Now either it's there to make a path, or it's there to deter people from fly tipping on there, or it's storing it. Could somebody please tell me just why has it been put there? To me, it's been fly tipped by our own staff.
Okay. Is there any other comments? Because I'd like to... 1, 2, 3.
There's one just
Probably
coming.
you. Okay.
Jerry Corbyn.
Right, so in my world, this is a classic example of something that should have been gone to a committee. It shouldn't have been put on Facebook. It should have come straight into the clerk, and the clerk should have decided to take a decision in, do we debate this at this council, or do we put it into a committee and get the job done? It should never come to this council. We're debating this way too long. We're not going to get a solution. I think it's a job of work to look at a proper solution to a proper problem. So I'm going to propose it goes on the agenda for the public lands.
And I did go to see it.
I'm not even sure it should be on the committee. I think it should be the clerk who's in charge of the staff. It should go to them.
Right. But if we need to put a policy in place, we need to, perhaps we do. Oh, I think we do. Who was first?
Have we got an original proposal that we need to either proposal?
Yeah, we did have a proposal. There was a proposal to provide a skip.
Are we voting on that, or has it been seconded?
When we finish the debate.
Chairman, can I ask for one comment to be minuted, please? Following on from your comments just now, I did actually go to the office first.
Good, okay, that's right.
I would just like to point that out because I did try and get it sorted first.
Good, that's how it should be.
I think what you're saying is sensible. And just to take on from Councillor Linscott's point, I think we should ask the clerk to come up with a proposal for a policy on what we do with this stuff and put that to the committee, rather than let the committee come up with a proposal. We don't know what the processes are.
I think that's where we've got to go as council. That mindset.
They have to
Take it to the office, take it to the clerk, and the clerk says, right, we'll sort it out. Okay, go on, Chris. Last time round now.
So I don't know if it is related, I don't know if it's a separate item. Given this has been aired very publicly on Facebook, I think we need to make a reassuring statement that it's been dealt with.
It'll be in the minutes.
I don't expect many people on Facebook to check the minutes. Maybe we should
In a month's time.
put them on there, but I don't know. That's my feeling.
Okay.
We've been criticised publicly, we should respond that yes, criticism taken, action, plan in place.
Criticisms by council. The post was started by council.
Yeah.
One question, they were quite rude about it.
A councillor who's own council dumps rubbish.
Well, either way, public debate, resolution,
This
job done.
Stay on topic, please. A proposal for the skip. Does anyone mind to second councillor's proposal for a skip? No. Last time for asking? Okay, so the proposal has failed. Right, we won't get a skip on this instance.
Mr Chair, can I just have some clarification? In September, when I came to council with your proposal in this manner, for the trees, which we now set back for a month, a standing order was raised that says I'm not allowed to do that, that the data for this proposal should have been with the minutes. Now, I don't want us to have this dual thing. You know, it's okay 1 month, it's wrong the next month. Can you stick by standing orders? This should never have been on the agenda if it didn't have the information to go out in the minutes.
So, no, I did, but to be fair, the proposal does state what the proposal is for.
Yeah, I don't see what's missing.
It says to provide a skip, and that's the proposal that we've...
I don't see a difference, John, from when I proposed to seek permission for going to the centre. I don't see the difference.
So what's missing from this
I was
proposal?
quite right that was supporting, I didn't have any supporting data. I made a proposal. I just want to get clear in my mind, do we follow standing orders every meeting, or do we do it?
We follow standing orders every meeting, but I don't see where this breaches standing orders. What data are you missing?
None of this was, there was nothing with, this is exactly what I attempted to do in September. And
So you didn't actually have,
I made a proposal.
and the proposal was complete. It didn't have any missing data.
I felt it was complete, because of the missing data, yes.
Okay.
But because I brought extra information, just as Councillor Slaw has, I was quite right to say, you need to provide that to come out with the minutes so we can assimilate it. But today, we've had a proposal here, which is 2 sentences, and then we've had, quite rightly, an explanation and quite a debate on it. I'm not complaining, I just want to have continuity. You know, the council suffered from this before. So either you can make a proposal and expand on it at the meeting with information that you didn't include with the
I think
agenda.
that's a judgment call a council has to make. If I come along with a proposal, let's say this skip needed data, this decision needed data, and I give it to you here and now, then the council, I think, has got the right to say we should have had that in advance. If it's a singular statement like, I think we should have a skip, yes or no, then I think there's no extra data that needed to be provided in advance. So I think it's down to the councillor who puts the agenda item together to make that judgment call, and the risk is with them. The standing orders will say, I'm sorry, you have to go away and come back. Is that?
I don't quite see it, but anyway, I don't see the difference, because we've had a 15-minute debate.
Well, debate doesn't mean we're missing any data.
Okay.
Just to follow up, I think the clerk should, to the person that says there's not enough information there to vote upon that, and that should go, and then the council should, it shouldn't get on the agenda if there's not enough.
Good. Okay. So there's going to be a filter applied. Okay, so that's a good way around. Right, so the proposal wasn't seconded, so that means it's failed. Simple as that. So, but there was. So what we do? You were going to took an action to
put together to propose a policy to the.
That's it. Put together a policy.
Could I suggest we have a comfort break, please? We've been over nearly 3 hours. And I think with the clerk, it's probably like a comfort break.
Okay, all right then. 5 minutes.